And we are on the air, and my stupid camera is focusing on something else. There we go. Okay. How are we doing?
Hello.
How's it going? Hi
Hello.
from Chris. We've got Fraser
Hello.
and Sam.
Howdy.
And unfortunately, we are missing Charlie today, who couldn't make it for various personal reasons, unfortunately. So it's just us. But how are we all doing? It's been a couple of weeks. We missed last week, didn't we? Because I had too much marking to do. My fault. My bad. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I took the opportunity. I streamed in the normal Thursday time slot. So.
Oh, really? You took our slot?
It up.
Oh,
hey,
what happened?
Nobody was there.
No one was there. Okay, so he's okay. Well, I would have looked at it, but I was in deep with marking.
I would have been sus if you showed up in chat. I'd have been like, hang on.
It would have been a bit sus, wouldn't it? Yeah. I'm just marking while I'm watching your stream. So yeah, unfortunately, I missed all that, which is a bit of a pity. So anything exciting happened over the week, guys?
I went to a volunteer info session at the local Botanic Gardens, which was very nice to get away from the computer.
Get away from the computer? What did you get away from the computer? What's this? I don't understand what you're talking about.
Just to get outdoors and in amongst, away from the office.
Away from the office. No, I do understand that. Yes, I absolutely, yes. I get it. It's hard sometimes for those of us who work with computers and live on computers. So was it good? Are you doing your volunteering at the Botanical Gardens?
I will be once I've got a working with children's clearance. But I think I'll be. It's just a compulsory thing they have to do. But I will be, I think, either helping out in the library, transcribing old records into digital form, or moving boxes of plants and collections from storage into cool rooms.
Okay. That sounds like not working on your computer.
Or potentially helping them with a platform, which will be programming. Which will
Oh no! You shouldn't have told them. You shouldn't have told them you know how to compute. You should have just said that you did something else.
I'm a technophobe.
Damn. What about you, Fraser? Anything exciting happen over the week?
Not too much. I did my ankle in. That was exciting.
How'd you do that?
I don't even know. We walked into the city and found a ramen place, and then on the walk back, I was like, "Oh, this hurts." And then it lasted for a week. I think I must have bruised like my Achilles or something.
Wow.
So yeah, that's
how far is the city from your place? Like how long does it take you to walk to the city?
Well, we caught the train in, and then it was a 15-minute walk through the city to get to where we had dinner. And yeah, something in that time just said it had enough, I suppose.
See, that's the problem.
I'm back in action now, so
exercise is dangerous. Just you need to be careful.
Yeah,
doing that sort of stuff. No, actually, I mean, walking is good, particularly for those of us who love our sedentary little lives on our computers. A little bit of exercise is not a bad idea.
Yeah, good for the brain as well, I find.
Yeah. I do try and walk every day, most days at least. So yeah. Cool. What are we doing today?
We're starting with Mirror's Edge, right?
Mirror's Edge. Yeah, you're a big fan. You're a gun. I think I was saying to you, I actually requested Fraser to get me some Mirror's Edge footage because I'm too crap at the game. I can't play anymore. I used to be able to play, but I think it's been probably 10 years since I last really played, and I can't do it anymore. I mean, it takes timing. It takes skill, and I just no longer have skill. So Fraser is the gun. He is the Mirror's Edge champion.
It is one of the two games that I will say is my favorite game of all time when asked.
Right.
So I would be disappointing myself if I wasn't good at it, or at least competent.
Well, I would say it was one of my favorite games as well, and I can't play it for crap anymore.
You can't say that anymore. That's what that means.
Well, look, it's the thing is, like, I just haven't played it for a long time. You know, I'm an adult, and I've been busy adulting. Unlike some other people, I can say who may be in this stream. I've been adulting maybe a little bit longer than you guys, so there's not that much time to play games. This is the tragedy of becoming an adult. It's like you've got time constraints. Well, it's not management. It's like you got to work, you got to make a living, you got to eat, and you got to sleep, and games. No time for that. What are these things?
I think you carve out 2 hours in the middle of the night in between your sleep for a couple of hours of gaming. I think that's the strat.
I couldn't think of anything worse for your sleep, for your
Wake up,
sleep health. Wake up, jump on the computer,
go back to sleep.
Oh, that would be absolutely horrible. I am sure that would be horrible. Let's jump in and take a look at our favorite Mirror's Edge game. Sam, have you played Mirror's Edge? You've been a bit quiet. You're not a Mirror's Edge fan?
Years ago, way back in high school.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're on the same page, I think.
It's going to stir some memories, I think.
Uh-huh.
Good nostalgic memories.
Let's have a look. Ooh, oh, look at this. The magic of modern technology. So, Fraser, do you want to explain for anyone who hasn't played? Actually, let me start recording this as well, just so I've got. I want this as well. Here we go. So there we go. So Fraser, do you want to maybe just give us a rundown of what Mirror's Edge is, what it's all about?
Yeah. So as you can see, it's a first-person game. I wouldn't quite say a shooter, although that's maybe debatable depending on who you ask. But the primary mechanics revolve around parkour and freerunning. You're sort of guided through these linear levels by sort of red objects. And you have to use your movement skill set to complete sort of platforming challenges as well as some combat encounters.
Right.
I think that's...
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Run, jump, roll, and punch.
and we should mention, you can't kind of see it here, but you are a very petite young woman in the game.
Yeah, I think, I've had to guess it's like early 20s. It may even be like late teenagers. Yeah,
I would say 20s because there's a section in the game where she's talking to her sister about like 10 years beforehand.
Yeah, but I think they were like kids. I think the sort of the plot revolves around this sort of dystopian future where it's sort of everything is very tightly controlled, including communication. And so you play as a runner who is essentially like a messenger. And yeah, the backstory is your parents are killed, and your sister becomes a cop, and you become this runner. And then there's sort of a political murder mystery where your sister gets sort of framed for murdering a politician, and you're tasked with trying to uncover the mystery and prove your sister's innocence.
Cool. Okay. And okay, so we're seeing a bit of footage right now, and well, look, I guess we've discussed this before, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit there. There's a bit of freeze here, isn't there? Oh, that's from the game. Okay. Oh, you skipped a couple of sections. That's how good you are. You know
all the cutscenes.
All the cutscenes, the ones that sort of get it to make sense. I really like this part actually. We're looking here. I think this is really cool. This is in the first section, isn't it? And here we go. Here she is, Faith herself, dangling from a helicopter.
Yeah, I have beef with this particular helicopter.
Okay.
I'm not 100%, but in my experience, if you get there too fast, it won't trigger the trigger isn't active, and so instead of grabbing onto the bottom of it, you will just fall to your death. So I deliberately have to stall just a second to make sure that it is will actually catch me.
the challenges of being a Mirror's Edge master. Yes.
I don't know if I go that far, but I appreciate
I'm watching you play, and I'm just like, because I played yesterday, and I'm just, I can't play anymore.
No, this is my comfort game. I will come back and do a playthrough every couple months, honestly.
Well, that's good. That's good. But so we've talked about aspects of this game and how much we both enjoyed it. And Sam, I'm assuming, does this bring back memories for you as well?
Yeah, it does. It's just the aesthetics and color scheme is it really brings me back, because I don't think we'd seen much of it at the time. I guess a little bit in like Assassin's Creed, like the first.
What's that? Sorry.
Like in the first Assassin's Creed, and like all the player guidance stuff that was really starting to sort of begin its sort of infancy. It's sort of, I think this game, Assassin's Creed, and maybe a couple of others really sort of helped guide some of the design choices that we've got going today.
Good point, actually.
Also, they stand out quite a bit because into that 360 era, we start to see a lot of the brown sepia tone desaturated games as well that were trying to be more gritty and realistic. And so I think, Mirror's Edge for me stands out as being one of the few sort of pops of color in between all that.
Yeah, but like the environment's sort of very futuristic and washed out white, and then the goals are brightly colored reds and oranges, which is really easy to see at a glance, like where you have to go.
They also love to do the I forget the name of the principle, but where you sort of if you walk out into like an open area, in the sort of in front of you on the horizon will be sort of your goal. So a lot of the time in this game it's like different buildings, and if you look up you'll see like they'll be like, oh yeah. So like here there's the CEC building up there, and then you get like on the radio, head to the CEC building. And it's one of those little things where, if it's done well, it'll help guide you. But sometimes in a game as fast as this, I find it's more so just like, once you do notice, you're like, oh, of course, like this is the direction I'm heading, and there I can actually see it.
There's a surprising amount of sort of cinematography involved in, guiding the player to where you want to go and sort of guessing roughly where they're going to be looking.
Yeah.
There is I discovered yesterday, I mean, there is if you hear the Alt key, it faces you towards your goal.
Yep.
As well. So there's also that as a backup if you miss everything else. I think they were starting to realize just how kind of dumb players are, and I include myself. I mean, like, you have to take the player's hand and show them through, guide them very, 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 very closely. And I think I find students are often very surprised when they realize just how close they have to put the dots together so that players can follow it. I mean, is that something you guys can relate to at all?
Yeah, with playtesting and laying out levels in a way that made sense to me didn't usually translate to what made sense to people playtesting.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it definitely resonates with that. You want to put the dots as close together as you can. You also want to sort of like, with Mirror's Edge, we, like you said, like you can have backups for things. You can assume, or even if you playtest, you'll see, the majority of players are looking in this direction, so they see this sort of wayfinding or this checkpoint or whatever. But then you go, okay, well, what about the group that's looking in this direction? And then you implement like a secondary navigation aid, and then you have something a bit more firm, like facing. You press the button, and the character faces the direction you need to go.
That's the brute force. That's the brute force one, isn't it? That's like, if all else fails, if my player is really that dumb, which I am, here's the button. Where the hell do I go?
Yeah,
the
but
Alt
I
key.
think
They were
that
thinking about me when
feels
they
better
did that
because
one.
one of the big criticisms with Catalyst, the sequel to Mirror's Edge, was that the runner's vision, which is all the objects that get highlighted in red to sort of guide you, they added this like trailing mass of like gas pixels, and you can just literally follow that directly. It runs all the way through the environment, and people complain because they're like, well, why would I do anything other than just follow that? Whereas at least in here, even the like brute force method is just pointing you in the right direction. It's not, it doesn't then put footprints down and say, walk along here, climb this, jump this bit specifically. So
Right.
there's still, a
So
little
you
bit of
can go too
flexibility.
far. So, and that
I
really
think
really
so.
says you can go too far, and that. I mean, how would you say? What is that actually doing? Is it just taking all agency away from the player in a way?
Yeah. And it's sort of, it's even if you even if you're not lost, it's sort of like your brain gets hijacked, right?
Yeah.
Like if you see the path, you'll follow the path.
You're
Whereas
kind of
in a
on you're
platform,
on easy mode whether you whether you like it or not.
yeah. And I think,
Mm.
part of the enjoyment of a game like this, any sort of platformer, is figuring out how to get to the place you need to go. So when it gets
Yeah.
pointed out to you, it's like, oh, okay, well, sure.
And at least there's that sense of achievement as well, or that perceived sense of achievement. If you go through and you do it, you do a perfect run. Even if there's a lot of things pointing the way, your sense is that you've achieved something. Whereas I guess if you're just being led by the hand, then you never get that sense of achievement. Do you? It's actually robbing you of a sense of achievement.
Yeah. And fortunately, you can turn that off in Catalyst, but
Mhm.
by default, it's on, which is just,
Right.
I feel like that's another one of those tricks. If it's on by default, most people won't even think that could be a setting that you could change.
Yeah. Well, here we go. The red. So before we move on, because we want to talk about something specific, but what's the difference between this red and Sam? You were talking about how this was kind of at the beginning of developing, guiding the player. So what we've got a lot of people complaining about yellow tape now. What's the difference between this red and yellow tape? I mean, is there a difference?
I think in this game's case, it's showing the player sort of where they need to go, whereas with the yellow tape, it's sort of showing what the player can do, like for like wall climbing or ledges they can jump up on, just stuff that have become a real staple in most modern games.
Is that the difference, that this was kind of breaking new ground, whereas yellow tape is a cliche?
Yeah.
This reminds me of... sorry, sir.
We hadn't really seen much of this. I think based on from what I'd personally played up until that point, which had been sort of Crysis, Far Cry, Half-Life 1 and 2, and I think Portal to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
It had been, player guidance had been sort of more, here's a doorway or here's an objective on a map that you have to head towards. It was a very sort of linear, obvious path you had to take. Whereas
along with fetch quests.
Yeah.
Yes, the old fetch quests.
Whereas in this, it was sort of, you had to get somewhere quickly. And I think that was sort of clearly their way of guiding the player very quickly towards where they needed to go.
So the difference is it's not so cliched. They were doing something different. So the difference
it does
is
remind me of a conversation that I was having with Zebedee on my stream. We're talking about QuickTime events. And I sort of asked the question, because we were talking about parrying, where, you sort of press a button just before an attack lands and you get to deflect the attack, and then you typically get like a counter hit. And I said, well, what's the difference between that and a QuickTime event? obviously the QuickTime event is going to throw the button symbol up on screen, but at the end of the day, it's still like a reaction-based timing. And we sort of came to the conclusion that a big part of it is the fact that a parry mechanic, or in this case, the runner's vision, the highlighted objects, they are diegetic, believably. Like, it's called runner's vision. It's literally explained as Faith is so skilled at navigating these environments. This is showing you where her focus is going. These objects are being highlighted because in her mind she's going, this is a tool that'll help me, this is a tool that'll help me.
I like that. That's a really good observation. Yes.
I think
so you're seeing from her perspective, or actually within her mind, you're sort of seeing something that she sees.
Yeah. And along with
nice.
they are they're also more like puzzle pieces, right? Like typically the red tape, the yellow tape, it's like that is the thing you interact with. It's the path itself. Where in Mirror's Edge, I find a lot of these are just objects that you can use to your discretion, rather than being specifically, the handhold you have to grab. It is quite a linear game, so at the end of the day, once you know the level, it kind of is, that is the path you have to follow. But technically, there are areas where you can deviate and or do something different with different objects.
But again, there's the perception. You do say it's a linear game, and yes, it is. But the perception when you first play it is that this is not a linear game. This is very big. It's very open. You can take like the paths you just took. You could take kind of different paths if you want to, and still get to the end. Maybe not the best end, but you will still get there. So again, perception is a really important part of that.
Yeah, it feels like finding your own way through the environment, where I think the yellow tape often feels like finding the correct way through.
And I like what you were saying before. I think that's something I'd really like to keep in mind, that what you're seeing is what, how'd you put it? It's not what she's seeing, but you're seeing sort of from within Faith's perception. It's giving you Faith's perception in a visual manner, so you can see the world in the same way that she sees it. I think that's a really important aspect of what we're talking about. Even though I'm not sure that it's ever really stated, though, is it? It's not stated that way.
No. I mean,
I don't think so.
A lot of the mechanics aren't outrightly stated, I don't think. Or if they are, they're in some part of the game that I skip through these days.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess
I wouldn't think so.
Different from like that faceless entity that goes up with yellow chalk and just paints the world yellow.
Yes, the dreaded yellow paint, whatever it is, for sure. I think it's the same guy who walks around game levels and drops notes. I think they're the same person.
And lights all the candles in dungeons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, sorry, Karen.
The last little bit is just that I think another like bow on top for that is being able to see objects, the red fade in and out. Sometimes when they first enter your view, you'll see the red fade in, and then sometimes when you've interacted with them, you'll see the red fade out. And it's, I think, goes to show these aren't red boxes in the world. They are what Faith is focusing on.
And also there can be different, I noticed there can be different paths, and if you miss one and go past it, another one will turn red, which is which says that they've spent a lot of time working out the different potential paths, I guess, at least.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So the thing I really want to talk about, so that's quite interesting, but what I really wanted to get to was the core player experience. We have talked about this, but this is kind of really getting to the issues that I want to talk about. So, I mean, you've kind of talked about this, but Fraser, for you, obviously this is one of your favorite games. What is the core experience of the gameplay? Shooting by the look of it right at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, do you want how I play it currently, or how I think the average player experiences it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, is there a timestamp which you would say gives us what you think is the core gameplay? Like this one, maybe not.
I mean, this is a good example of, I think, how most new players would find it. The fact that you can pick up guns and use them, and then you find.
But let's not go into that. Let's talk about what the core player experience. It's what I think it is as well. So do you have a timestamp for that by any chance?
Yeah. Let's go to 1 hour 5, which is good enemy design. I think this is peak Mirror's Edge gameplay.
1 hour 5. Gun Yuck.
Yeah, next one over, I think.
Good enemy design?
Good enemy design, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So this is late game. We're introduced to these new enemies, which are, in the plot, they're police officers who have been trained by a runner. So they don't use firearms. They have stun guns and smoke grenades, and they are proficient in hand-to-hand combat, unlike other enemies. And they're also really good at parkour and free running. So it leads to these really intense. It's such a shame there's only a few moments of this in the game, but these intense moments of having to use your own skills to evade these really proficient chasing enemies. So in the early game, your sort of core gameplay is sort of taking in an environment, seeing the destination, and trying to figure out a path to get there. And so in the late game, it turns into having to do that, but under a time pressure. And I think, that's sort of...
Okay, so let me sort of flesh that out a little bit. So we're talking about parkour being the core, pretty much the core thing. So Faith, as we mentioned earlier on, is a petite young woman. She's not some big burly, warrior type person. She's quite a small person who's quite, you know those people. You've probably, if you've ever been to a like rock climbing place, you can see those people, and they're very wiry and small, and they just climb places and things that I could never do. She strikes me as that sort of person. Not a warrior, not someone who's going to get into a big fight and be able to kill lots of people. She's about parkour, and parkour for me also, and you're looking at it here, is sort of getting to the flow. Yeah, it's like once you learn how to play the game, get the basics. Am I correct in saying that's like one of the core sort of player experiences, is like getting into that flow state?
Yeah, big time. If it was that sort of fantasy, right? I don't remember if it's parkour or free running, but one of them, sort of the distinction is moving from point A to point B with sort of the most efficient use of your energy, right? So not slowing down. And getting to achieve that in the game it fulfills that fantasy, and it feels good. It's what all the mechanics are trying to push you to do.
So that's the core player experience, is that idea of flow, parkour, moving through the world, and it definitely it achieves that. Yeah, I mean it certainly gets that, and the key to doing that is sort of continuing. And you can see here you messed something up. So one of the sort of, I guess, is it punishment in a way, or one of the things that happens if you get your timings wrong, it pushes you out of that. It stops you from doing that. And it's got that runner vision and things which really help to get you into that flow when you get the timing right. Yeah, correct?
Yeah, spot on.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. This was for 2008 we're talking about, yeah? So certainly back then, I think a bit less of a degree now. But of course, we all know that video games have to include some sort of shooting, don't they? Isn't this first person video game? We had at that time. Let me think. What are some of the other games? What are the games you were talking about, Sam? The ones you were playing.
Half-Life, Counter-Strike.
Half-Life, shooter, Counter-Strike, shooter, Crysis,
Portal.
shooter.
Yeah.
Portal, not so much. Interesting. Portal,
Yeah.
not a shooter. The only one out of that list that's actually not a shooter. And I think, so to me, and I think I remember when I first played this, I remember having this criticism that it felt like the shooting in the game was actually against the kind of core gameplay, and it was against that whole idea of moving, of getting into that flow state. Because look, now she's got to stop, and what are we doing now? We're bloody shoot. We're in a shooter game,
and look how slow you move as well.
Yeah,
all of the speed is gone. It just slows you down.
Yep.
You can't do anything. You can slide a little bit, and the guns are just so oppressive. You kind of don't have a choice. Like, unless you know exactly the path to get through the level to just ignore the enemies, or you're playing on easy, you kind of have to stop and deal with them. And the most effective way to do that is using their guns against them.
Yeah. So this to me is a really interesting situation where a game, as great as this game is, it uses, like, it has its core player experience, its core sort of gameplay in parkour and in getting that flow state. But for some reason, we have this sort of stuff going on. Like even here, even having to fight this enemy, like, this is not about the core gameplay.
Yeah, it's a bit abstract, but it sort of reminds me of those levels in games where you have to escape like a big wall of something, and it's like a time trial. And in a very abstract way, these enemies are sort of trying to funnel the player in a similar way, where stopping, it sort of does present that risk that the player will be sort of engulfed by that wave of danger.
Could you give some more concrete examples? I'm not quite sure that I'm...
I guess I'm having a mental blank. Like where you have to really rush towards the end of the level to escape, like an automatic game over state.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I can't think of sort of any examples of that.
You mean in the sense that, like, you just are forced to do something that is sort of not part of the core gameplay?
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's
agree.
Absolutely, and it's one of those big challenges as well. And I mean, it's interesting. I guess I'll throw it to you guys first. Like, Fraser, do you have any insight as to why the shooting mechanics are in there?
I couldn't find a source for the information, but if you skip to the end, there is concept art of Faith holding a pistol, and I have this memory of some information about it was going to be far more integral to the gameplay, but be more harmonious with it. As in, the gunplay wouldn't slow Faith down to a crawl. And I think it's a good example of it. If you jump to 24 minutes, 42 seconds in, which is the 5th gun chapter.
24:51, yeah?
Yeah. So this part of the level starts with you in the vent, and you drop down and there's a gun on the table, a pistol. And when you grab it, you still have all of your movement abilities open to you. You still can run at full speed, you can grab ledges, do all the normal parkour stuff. And so I think this is sort of what they wanted the gunplay to be. They wanted it to be more like a tool that you can use to get around. And it's really handy here because there's a lot of these glass windows which can be annoying to sort of parkour through.
But isn't that interesting? It's a different kind of mechanic in that case. I remember this one because basically using it to break the windows. It's not so much a weapon as really more of a tool.
Exactly. And all I can imagine is, I mean, once you put a gun in their hands, and video games for so long have been shooters, you're kind of stuck with, well, they're going to shoot the enemies. And so I don't know, I can see it sort of being this thing of like, oh, the gun will be this cool like tool that'll help in these certain situations, and then it's like, well, if they have a gun, why would they fight hand to hand? And then Faith loses her gun, but enemies with huge guns stay in the game. And then it sort of fits the market. Every other game has shooting. So why
we should mention this is DICE as well. I mean, this is Battlefield, the guys who made Battlefield.
Those examples there, actually, if you skip back a couple seconds, this is actually another instance where I think the gun could have been a really handy tool. The guys jump out of the door, and normally they'll start shooting at you. But with gun in hand, it should come up in a second.
Yep.
But it's just another good example of the gun. You don't have to use it lethally, which is funny to sort of describe a gun, but you can see here as the guards pop out, I just pop them a couple times and it staggers them, stops them from shooting me, slowing me down. And so it's like, that's an interesting, way to use it to keep your speed up. The downside is, because it's a first-person game, you're going to be running in the direction you're facing for 90% of it. And so aiming and running in a direction can be really difficult, especially because all of the animations is tied to, you can't run at full speed if you're holding left or right, because Faith's body isn't facing that direction. And I don't think anyone can run faster or as fast running forwards as they can side to side. But so there's like an inherent limitation there where it's like you can't be running forwards and then turn to look or shoot someone. So it's tough. I'm like, I can see where it could have been a cool tool, but I think as soon as it became a gun, it's sort of just, you get stuck in this sort of design sinkhole where it has to, because it's a gun, it has to be a gun. It can't be anything else.
And the other aspect, the other cognitive, is cognitive dissonance the correct word? Apart from having a gun and and all this sort of stuff, is that we get shot. Faith gets shot. Have you ever been shot? Has anyone ever been shot here? I haven't been shot, but you know what? I've stubbed my toe, and that really hurt. And I couldn't walk, for a little while after that. Whereas Faith's getting shot, and it's just like, it's all good. It's fine. Yeah, I got shot, but now I'm better. I'm all better now. And that's never explained. Like, why? It's not like, I mean, what they could have done something. I'd say, oh, she's got a shield or something, which wouldn't have fitted with the game at all. But at least there'd be a reason.
Yeah, in preparation for this, I was thinking about why the guns feel so bad in it. And, we've talked a lot about the mechanics of it, slowing them down and not fitting the core gameplay, but also like narratively, right? You are a runner, a messenger. There's an inherent sort of assumption of pacifism to a messenger, right? You're sort of trained in hand-to-hand combat. You're also trained to run away. So combat doesn't make a lot of sense to begin with. But also, like, this is meant to be this high-stakes political murder mystery. And halfway through the game, there are full SWAT officers, head to toe in body armor, with like heavy machine guns shooting at you. It's sort of like, it escalates too fast. Whereas I think if you just stuck with cops with handguns, that should be deadly enough, right? The idea of being shot by a handgun, it should be game over for someone whose whole job is running. And so you could have kept that nice sort of, they're cops, they have handguns, they're deadly, but at least they're slow, It's dystopian future. They don't, they don't have to chase perps very much. So, you can outrun them. And then you get the introduction of the more skilled enemies who have been trained by a runner. And so then you have that good dynamic. But instead, they just, I don't know, 2008, they're like, we need sniper rifles and shotguns and heavy machine guns, or it won't be thrilling.
When you were talking then about the cops, I was thinking of the cops in The Fifth Element. Are you familiar with that film, The Fifth Element?
It's on my to watch list.
Oh, you haven't watched it, mate. Oh, it's an absolute classic.
Yeah, that's why it's on the list.
Years ago.
Well, let's say they're not very healthy. I mean, the cops that you see are parked at a Golden Arches, I think they call it. Golden Arches. It's not McDonald's. And yeah, so I was just thinking about that. What if all the cops in this were kind of those sort of cops, and Faith is just running around? They couldn't catch her. Yeah,
it would be fitting. It would make sense, right? Like, you're meant to be in this world where runners are super important because information is controlled.
Yeah.
It's like it makes sense that the regular cops aren't fast enough to catch you, and so you have to train up these like super special ones. Yeah.
Can we go back to those? Can we go back? Because I thought what you were saying about where was that? The good enemy design.
Enemy design.
I want to go back and have a look at these. Yeah, here we go. So these guys, I think if you had more of these, this would have been a really good, very different game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I wish genuinely, and because like I said, like they changed the dynamic from just puzzle platforming, and then your next step up would be puzzle platforming, but there's some areas where there are cops with guns who shoot you from that area to the cops now chase you, and you have to keep moving or get swamped.
I've got to ask, why does this area feel like it's been built out of the Unreal Engine tile things that they use for prototyping? It doesn't even look like they've finished this level. This is kind of like,
well, the narrative here is that this is the training ground for these cops. So this is meant to be like a training stage that could be modified to sort of, teach them all the runner skills. So I think that makes sense. It's fitting.
So we do agree there's a problem here. The core gameplay, the core player experience being parkour and flow is kind of destroyed by the guns in the game, pretty much, apart from a few exceptions which we've spoken about. Both when she gets shot and both when she actually uses weapons, it just doesn't work,
There's also one other example, an hour 1944, which is the 14th gun, which I titled "Killing the Fun."
Killing the fun. There we go.
So we can see here, I fight this guy and take his gun. And so then there's another cop. I take him out, grab a fresh gun, and it's like, these guys are really tough to fight. Oh wait, but I have a gun now, so.
Oh my god! What a talk about missing an opportunity.
Any threat they pose, any of that pressure to sort of navigate quickly, it's like, sorry, I picked this up earlier. So
we need to remake this game, don't we? We've got it. We could remake this game perfect.
I can't believe that they dropped the ball so badly.
You know what I suspect? I suspect that half the development team wanted to make a parkour runner game, but they had to work with the other half of the development team who were actually from the Battlefield team.
Yeah, I mean,
and they said, no, we're gonna have guns. What am I gonna do? What are the Battlefield fans gonna do? I think it must have been something along those lines, because why would you have these sort of weapons?
There might not even be sort of a conscious effect, though. Like,
for sure.
Like I've seen.
Fraser over here, he's an expert. He's an expert in machine guns. What's he going to do? He's got to have a job.
Yeah, and not even that. If you've been working on Battlefield X, Y, Z, your brain is going to be in that space to be thinking. Like it makes sense. In each new shooter, you're going to be like, how can we make the shooting even better? And if you're suddenly thrown onto another game,
you're now on a runner game. You're now on the parkour game. They're like, what? What are we supposed to shoot?
Yeah.
Interesting point. That's quite possible. But unfortunately, I think this game would have been. I mean, it is a classic. It is one of those classics. But it could have been so much better, so much different.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, it is a classic, and I think it made huge strides when it came out. And I think that's why it's sort of a perfect sort of makes for perfect analysis, right? Because it's like it did so much right, but it was also breaking so much ground that we can really dissect and see like what happens when you come up with something good, but you're sort of stuck with certain ways of thinking, and how do we get out of those ways of thinking when we think we're onto something, I suppose.
That's a good point. I mean, it was kind of a victim of its own time and place. Like it couldn't escape the cultural zeitgeist that had come beforehand when it came to shooters and what a game was, what people thought a game was. So it had to have guts. Yeah, I think you're right.
This level is also, I think, one of the best examples of one of the best parts of
spatial design.
Yeah, I mean that the way this involves that sort of puzzle platforming element so heavily. It's just a good example of one of the strongest aspects. Like I think this puzzle platforming, along with especially there's a few scenarios, and if you're playing on easy and are purposely avoiding knocking out any of the cops, that concept I was talking about of having to run and navigate the environment under time pressure from being chased and attacked. Those two things I think are what I would love to see in an ideal Mirror's Edge reboot.
Yeah, it's interesting. It reminds me there's a level, a classic level also in Half-Life 2. And it's a similar sort of thing. Like it uses those multiple dimensions, like the full 3 dimensions in that whole thing. And I think when you get a level that does that really well, you can just kind of feel it. It just uses those layers. It uses all the aspects of the 3 dimensions of movement, and you can kind of feel. When you're in a level like that they've developed with a lot of care and a lot of attention.
Yeah, definitely.
So there we go. We've what's this one? Oh goodness me.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and this is
cognitive. This is the cognitive. Why would you do this?
Yeah. Like it's such an odd choice for the narrative to be like, my sister's in this police convoy. I'm gonna shoot the van she's in so that I can rescue her. It's like, who are we playing as anymore?
Yeah.
Like, this is
John McClane from from Die Hard. That's who we are. That's the thing.
Is another narrative. It's great.
But But again, that's why I think it comes back to her being this petite. I think her identity is really important, and they've missed a few things. They've missed what the game is, like the actual core of the game, and they've missed who the protagonist is as well, and like what her you were saying earlier on. We see the red because we're actually seeing from her perspective, and they've kind of missed that by doing this sort of stuff. Like they've gone away from that.
Yeah,
unfortunately, still a great game, but there's just
really
this cognitive. There's these cognitive kind of mismatches where you're just like, oh, why am I doing this? This doesn't fit with what I'm doing. I think they were trying to please multiple audiences in their minds.
I think about how I can recommend it, and it's sad because it's like, play it on easy, take out all the guards in every level, learn the levels in detail so you know the exact path you want to take through them, then play them on easy again and do like a pacifist run where you're just dodging every enemy. Because it's like, that's when it's the most fun, is when you're like have the threat of being taken out, but you're stopping yourself from fighting back. But you need to know the level, because otherwise, if you don't know where you're going, you'll get lost, you'll get turned around, and then you'll just get swamped. So,
well, there you go. That's some expert advice. So start on easy, kill everything, work your way through, do it again.
Still play on easy.
Still play it on easy. Yeah. There you go. And that's how you become.
That's how to have fun. It's going to take you like 15 to 20 hours to know all the maps, but it's worth it.
And how long did you spend on this? This was like an hour or something that you spent?
Hour 40 was my
That's your
time.
speed run. An hour 40. Nice.
With a lot of mistakes in that, but that's okay.
Oh well. You should try again with no mistakes.
I could do another hour discussion about the speed running for this game because I think it's really interesting. But maybe another day when I can prepare.
Actually, if we want to go into that again, because if there's more that you have to say about the speed running, which is obviously quite different from what we've been talking about, and that talks about the core. These are elements of the core gameplay, right? Let's do that.
Exactly.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Very briefly, as a teaser, essentially, there's two camps. From what I'm aware, from not much looking into, but there's two camps in the speedrunning. One group who does sort of, as fast as possible, and they'll use whatever glitches, very normal speedrunning. And one group that's like, this game is about momentum and flow. The speedrun should accentuate that. It should be using all the moves. And so essentially, it's like a glitchless versus 100% categories, but they're quite contrasting. And I think it's, because of that core gameplay design.
Okay. Let's talk about that in the next week or two. That'd be really good. Yeah, fantastic. All righty, cool. So nice. That gives us something to do next time. Where are we? Okay, so we're back here again. Let me just pause that one. Thank you, Fraser, for taking that time out and going through the entire game. Obviously, that was pretty hard for you to do. We appreciate that. So, next thing I want to talk about, how are we going time? I'm going well time-wise. Next thing I want to talk about was actually looking at game design, game development as a creative pursuit, as a creative cultural artifacts, that we call them, cultural artifacts. And looking at that in a context, in the context where games came from. So, games, if you think of computer games, let's think of PC games. We're talking about, and we're talking about in 3D. Let's talk about 3D PC games. We're talking about kind of around 1992, where we had the first sort of 3D PC games. Things like, I don't know, some were 2.5D. We're talking about things like Return from Castle Wolfenstein, the original Doom, those sort of early type of games. So this is not that long ago, early 90s. We're talking 30 odd years, 35 years ago, something like that. Not that long ago. And of course, nothing happens in a vacuum. And these, even though we're talking about some major shooter games and what have you, they still sort of happen in a context. So I was kind of keen to look at some sort of art theory. And let me just change this one. So I came across this a bit of a while ago. This is a video from was it Great Art Explained? I think it is. I should pop the link in the chat there. But it's about an artist, Edward Hopper, and a particular painting that he did called Nighthawks. So I thought we might just have a look at this video and kind of talk about it. I'm interested to sort of look at the context that we're in. So this painting, as we kind of see here, 1942. This is well before the first computer game came along. Almost well before the first computer came along. And I'm interested to sort of see and discuss the kind of creative world that it came into, but also look at Edward Hopper's creative process as well. So I guess we might start. We haven't done this sort of thing before, but I'll start the video, and we do want to hear the narration as well. But I guess we can sort of stop and chat about things when we kind of want to. So maybe just let me know if you want to stop and say if you've got a comment to make. So it's not going to work that way. Okay. Let me just, cool. Look at those on.
Edward Hopper's world was New York, and he understood that city more than most people. He understood that even though you may live in one of the most crowded and busy cities on Earth, it is still possible to feel entirely alone. This painting was completed on January the 21st, 1942, just weeks after the bombing of Pearl Harbor and America's entry into World War II. That's not to say the war was a direct influence, but the feeling of dread many Americans had surely infused the painting. Afraid of air raid attacks, New York had blackout drills and lights were dimmed in public spaces. Streets emptied out and Hopper City was effectively dark and silent.
All the tenement dwellers got in return was a feeling of being close to the passing parade.
Edward Hopper took the elevated L train to work for decades. In his 40s, he was a failure who couldn't sell a painting. He hated his job as a magazine illustrator, but he needed the money. His paintings were pretty much ignored by critics, while his fellow artists enjoyed success and fame. But Hopper was convinced of his talent, and even when he was broke, he only accepted illustration work 3 days a week.
Illustration really didn't interest me. I was forced into it by an effort to make some money.
The rest of the week, he painted extraordinary images. He spent his entire adult life in New York City, most of it in a small walk-up apartment in Greenwich Village. Eventually, his wife Jo would move in. It was not a happy marriage. They argued a lot, and it was explosive, at times violent, and extremely codependent. They would sometimes not talk to each other for days, and spent much of their marriage in silence. We see this reflected in the disconnected and unhappy couples he portrays time and again in his paintings.
We want to stop there for a second.
Who may share the same.
Yeah.
I've watched this video, pre-watched, but I think immediately, we're talking about the context, right, that art is made in, whether in this case a painting or in ours, video games. But it's interesting how immediately we already have noted 3 different influences. First being the time frame in which it happened, shortly after America entered World War II. The background of the artist, so the fact that he was an illustrator, and then also his sort of emotional well-being at the time, the fact that he had this sort of strained relationship with his wife. And it's interesting, just knowing those 3 points, not even in too much detail, you can sort of start to pick things out and sort of see how that context influenced a lot of the work that we're seeing.
In what way? What sort of stands out for you?
We're going to get more in detail in this video, I know, but immediately, the illustration work, I think, is pretty clear in how well defined the characters are. The subjects of the paintings are very, the silhouettes are well defined. Sort of the emotion is conveyed quite strongly.
Could I use the term workmanlike?
Yeah.
I guess from having to do things like illustration where you're trying to convey something specifically and doing that and not kind of caring about it, you really do to refine your craft, yeah?
Yeah. 100%. And it's I don't know, it's, I guess the practice shows, like in illustration work, he's done it for so long. He's very confident in how to compose a figure, and it comes across with the painting. And then the emotional state you see in so many of these works where there's a couple, they feel very closed off to each other, which knowing the history behind it, you can't help but sort of feel it's a sort of self-expression in it.
Yeah, the connection with the audience is definitely there because it's something that you can relate to.
So do you think how would you sort of link this with games?
I mean, I immediately am thinking about a discussion I had a couple of weeks ago, which was, should we as game developers be practicing other art forms to help the pursuit of our game development? I think about my personal experience in photography and how that has helped me in things like level design when it comes to composition. And so, yeah, it's one of the things, we see these really strong characters in his painting, which you could tie to illustration. It's, what art forms, what pursuits can we practice that'll help translate to games, I suppose.
I think it's also to do with like emotional distress and sort of channeling that drive into something that you're passionate about. Because sometimes that sort of, I want to say obsessive, but also if you use it as like a coping mechanism, I feel with all that attention and sort of fire behind you, there's a certain spark and soul that sort of integrates itself into what you make. So in terms of game design, it might be the difference between, really thinking with a sort of tunnel vision towards what you're sort of feeling at the time and bringing that out into a game.
Absolutely. And I'd say any creative endeavor can have that. I think, and regardless, even if you're not doing it consciously, you're still, your personal mental state, your emotional state, your history, it's going to come out into the type of games you create. You can see some people make, very happy, light, joyous games. Other people make, really dark, gritty horror games. With G'day Hideo, hope you're doing well. So that sort of stuff comes out. And I have asked myself many times what the psyche of Hideo Kojima might be, given some of the stuff we've seen. I'd also say it's better to channel that sort of stuff into some sort of creative pursuit rather than becoming like a mass murderer, which perhaps is the other option sometimes.
Or addict or alcoholic.
I don't think it stops you necessarily from being an addict or an alcoholic. There's plenty of artists who have proved that to be the case.
Yeah.
But hopefully, not being an alcoholic, not being dependent on drugs is the best way to go. Says someone who doesn't take drugs and doesn't drink alcohol. So yeah.
I have always wondered, though, I feel like that sort of like tortured artist trope fits very well with media which have some sort of a shorter time frame and a more spontaneity to it. Photography and painting and those sorts of things. Because I've thought about it and how that sort of can influence games, but at least from my perspective, like when I'm working on a game, it goes through so many rounds of sort of iteration that any of that sort of immediateness gets lost. I think what you were saying, Chris, sort of the emotional state you're in and also the physical one will always have an impact. But I feel like, I don't know, with games and maybe, films in another way, they get a little softened, a little more rounded out over time because they need much more time to be developed.
Can you compare that to something else? What's the other end of that spectrum that you're thinking?
My go-to is photography, right? If I am in, a very sort of erratic mental state, if I grab my camera, the photos I'd take would capture those intense emotions in a very sort of raw and immediate fashion. Whereas if I was trying to capture those emotions in a game, I would need to digest them into a narrative that I would approach, and then I would need to try and start doing a lot of game design to think about, okay, well, what mechanics convey that emotion and sort of can connect the player. It's like in one hand you can almost make the art, have it done in something like photography, but in games, I don't know. Maybe.
No, I think you hit on a really important aspect there.
Human aspect.
Yeah, but also how many ways. So if you think of photography and even art, painting, it's a frame. It's a single frame, and that's all. That's what you end up with. So we're looking at Edward Hopper here, and you can look at that, and you can spend time looking at it, and there's a lot in there. There's a lot of information in there. But that's the piece of art. It's that one single frame. So for a game, or for say film, or maybe a play, piece of music, there's more to it. So a single frame, that's a single moment in time, whereas in a game or film or other art medium, there's, number one, you've got the temporal element, so over time, so seeing things go over time. Number two, in games, in 3D games, you've got the spatial element as well. So there's those other elements, and then that's not even, then you can go into things like the characters, the look of the characters, and also you can combine, particularly with games, you can combine text with that. So you've got a journal that you're reading, and the journal also gives you more. And then there's the music and the sound and the world. So I think what you're saying there about expressing in a medium like photography is absolutely correct. But a medium like games, there's a lot more there. It's more expansive. But then there's also more avenues for telling your story and creating contrast.
I'm also thinking about the point of view, right? I feel like in a game, it's one of the few mediums where the point of view is the viewers, right? The player, the person consuming the art, they get to choose the point of view, so it becomes theirs. Whereas in photography and painting, the point of view is much more closely tied to the artists. Even in these scenes we're seeing from Edward Hopper, like, you can see them as sort of like an outer body, right? Like, it feels like he's expressing a view of himself, but it still feels like his view of himself. And I feel like it's sort of gets more difficult to express that point of view as you move into something like film, and then even further as you move into games where the player, the viewer, has an interactive experience with it.
It's also because people express emotions differently, and some can sort of get trapped in that spiral for hours or days or weeks. And I think in Hopper's case, it seems to have tracked for a fairly long period of time. So also
decades, perhaps.
Also in that sort of temporal element, that piece of art could also capture some of the stages of grief that people go through. It could be through that initial denial and the acute sort of anger or sadness, all the way through to acceptance, which is
absolutely
a really nice touch.
I hadn't thought about that. Is, as I feel like that journey is so often tied to something, like a film or a game or music, an album, where time progresses as you need time to progress to fully appreciate the art. But the idea of paintings or photography where you get these still frames, the idea that each piece being a capture of that same emotion over time is really interesting.
Like, from this current frame, it's a guess, but when he first started, it could be like a portrait of a man, and then towards the end, when he's doing the details, it could be later on when he's sort of processing whatever emotions he's feeling at the time, to put the lighting touches on the hedge outside, or the light coming in through the window in that lighter section on the wall.
We'll hear more about his process actually later in the video, so that's quite interesting. It's quite poignant. Should we carry on a little bit? We're probably going to run out of time, but let's carry on, and just let me know when you want to stop. I'll probably keep going unless I find something that I want to stop. But let me know if there's something you want to say.
Base, but inhabit different worlds. Then in 1924, at the age of 42, he had his first sellout show, promptly gave up his illustration and devoted his life exclusively to art. He married Jo in 1924.
I just wanted to say, wouldn't we all do that if we had a successful game and we could just completely give away our side gigs that pay for our lives? I just wanted to throw it because none of us can afford to do game design full time or game development full time, which is kind of tragic. It's a bit of a bummer, but anyway.
The same year he got his solo show. They were both in their 40s when they married, and they would stay together for 43 years. Before they married, Jo was a moderately successful artist, and it was her who introduced him to curators at the Brooklyn Museum, who bought one of his paintings and launched his career. It was down to Jo that Edward became a success, a fact he never thanked her for.
It seems to me that women are the ones that show the gratitude.
In fact, Edward, a gloomy and silent figure, would spend their marriage constantly belittling and denigrating his wife and her artistic talents. Jo would respond with verbal assaults of her own. She was possessive and jealous and refused to allow other women to pose for him. She was the model for every single one of his paintings, including Girly Show when she was 60 years old. Their unhappy marriage almost certainly contributed to the artist depicting figures who seem emotionally unresolved. In Hopper's paintings, couples are not communicating, touching, or displaying any affection. Relationships are ambiguous. Characters do not interact with each other. They are disconnected both from themselves and from us. Jo and Edward Hopper love the theatre and movies, and Nighthawks suggest to us a scene on an illuminated stage, as if we are watching in a darkened theatre. His compositions were often influenced by set design, stage lighting, and the kind of aggressive cropping and angles we see in cinema. With Hopper's work, it is important to focus on the preparation. Finding the right subject matter crippled him with anxiety. Once he decided, there followed months of research, preparation, and mostly sketching. There are 19 surviving sketches for Nighthawks, but he would have done many more. Hopper would use life drawings to establish a visual understanding, and then relied on his subconscious to refine the final composition of his paintings.
I think this is really important for anyone in the creative industries, because it's so easy to look at a finished painting and it's just there, or a finished game, it's just there, or a finished film. It's, of course, now it's all finished, it's all done, and not appreciate how much hard work has gone into not just building it, not just the technical stuff, not the programming, not the coding, but the conceptualization of what is actually being created. It's really easy to not appreciate how much work has gone into an artist's sort of the ideas, and bringing up those ideas and experimenting, using different prototypes. We're talking about sketches here, but sketches are prototypes in a way. There's so much work that goes into all of this. It's easy to forget about that.
I think it's nice to see it because, I talked about how painting can be a more sort of spontaneous media compared to film and games, but it doesn't have to be. You can obsess over it over and over and over. And yeah, like you said, that idea of sketching before even getting to canvas is maybe something that gets forgotten about or not known about. So yeah.
I really liked the mentioning of the subconscious, because I guess in a way, when I'm making working on any sort of project, really, depending on how I feel, sort of dictates what I'm going to work on for that day.
So, out of interest, Sam, what obviously you do games, but you also do music. Do you have any other creative outlets as well? Or are they your two main ones?
They're my two main ones, but I do play piano. Like I'll learn pieces and sort of obsess over those for a couple of days until I wear myself out.
Mm-hmm. Yep, cool.
Walking, singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So composition and create. So they're the sort of, I guess you mean creative, where you're creating, doing the creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And composing music can take a number of days. Usually it does start with like a few sketches, a few sort of chord shapes on a piano. But usually it is sort of just guided by, feeling and just getting into that sort of flow state.
And Fraser, yours is games, photography, anything else?
I crochet, but I'm not at the point where I'm I feel like a lot of the creativity comes from designing patterns, and I'm not quite at that point yet.
Right. Okay. Yeah, just want to sort of hit on that, because we usually creative people normally have more than one creative outlet. So, yeah, cool. Should we carry on?
Yeah.
Know from Joe's notes on the painting that she posed for the woman and Edward posed for the three men. He dismissed his years spent illustrating magazines, but along with the preparation skills he picked up, it also helped to hone his storytelling abilities. He planned Nighthawk like a film director, storyboarding the painting ahead of its creation. He prepared props, the position of hands, the distance of the couple, the clothes, and everything was documented by Joe.
There we go. Would you have thought there was that much gone into a single painting?
I suspected.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell. I feel like sometimes artists, it really is just, it's all intuition, and practice, and they end up with the final piece sort of rendered out at the end. But no, it is very encouraging to see that level of planning behind a piece of artwork that I think is really quite resonant, quite powerful.
To see the process, to understand that these amazing works of art don't just pop into reality. There is a huge creative process that has been developed by an artist over their entire lifetime up to that point. And it takes time, it takes practice, it takes honing, discipline it takes. And it takes often, one of the big things is often it takes grind. Like you get up in the morning, you don't feel like doing it. You sort of you'll get there and you'll just grind away because you have to do this thing. So I think as creators, you have to realize that. We have to realize there is a grind in between. There's the beginning. To me, the most enjoyable parts are the inspiration, the beginning inspiration. That's fantastic. Then there's the grind, and then you finish it, and then that's another highlight. But the bit in between, I find that the hardest part, personally.
Yeah, that feels like the work.
The work. Why do we have to do work? We just come up with it. Just come up with something that's amazing.
I mean, even just in the physics sense, right? Work is what, energy and against force resistance. It's the inspiration is it's passionate and it's enjoyment. The ending, it's that fulfillment and that reward. But in the middle, it is just doing what you sort of set out to do.
Grind. Yeah, grind are the worst. Work. It's definitely work. So it's something to keep in mind and to keep to stop you from sort of feeling like you're not doing the right thing, and to understanding you need to put in the work to get to the end. Yeah. Cool.
Then he worked out the angle of the diner's window and its position in the street like an architect. Hopper uses strong diagonal lines for the diner that converge off screen and suggest a space outside the painting. but also lead the eye to the right. No matter which side of the painting you look at first, the clever use of perspective pulls your eyes towards the four figures in the diner. He uses colour to achieve this too. Darker tones of red and green outside the diner stand out against the bright yellow interior, causing our gaze to shift from exterior to interior. There is no life outside the diner, and what details there are minimal. We see a cash register across the way in an otherwise deserted store. We see an ad above the diner, but the buildings around are devoid of life. This is a world shut down. The large window not only creates a barrier between the viewer and the characters, but also emphasizes the silence inside the diner and adds a voyeuristic touch. The characters are trapped like specimens in a jar. Windows and looking through them feature in so many of Hopper's works, and we are often looking at an angle. Although he was often grouped with the American realist painters, he once said, "I think I am still an impressionist." The ideas of one artist in particular, Gustav Caillebotte, was a major influence and is rarely discussed. His works often feature the window motif, but we can also see his influence on Hopper's loose brushwork, his use of saturated colour, his urban settings, and his perspectives. Like the Impressionists, Hopper was obsessed by light. The year before Hopper painted Nighthawks, Café Terrace at Night by Vincent van Gogh was exhibited in New York, which we know Hopper saw and admired. Both scenes are lit by artificial light, gas lamps in Van Gogh's case. In Hopper's diner, the light source is neon light, a relatively new thing in the 1940s, which gives it an eerie glow, like a beacon on the dark street corner. The nighttime setting is melancholic and enhances the emotional content of the work, suggesting danger or uneasiness. Hopper often portrayed a specific time of day in his paintings, and nighttime seems a particular time of anxiety for him from early on in his career. If you are looking for a door to welcome us in, there just isn't one, to go in or out. The diner is hermetically sealed, effectively keeping the viewer at bay. We can only stare in from the outside. The door we see probably leads to the kitchen. What really interested Hopper was emotions and interpersonal relationships. He was drawn to the lives of people he'd seen through the windows on the L train, in offices and in restaurants and apartments. The characters are in their own worlds. As is usual with Hopper, there is no sign of conversation amongst them. Tension somehow radiates from them. He specialized in these open-ended narratives, which demand the active role of the viewer in completing the story. He plays with our expectations, with our unconscious mind. This unrelated image, painted 2 years before Nighthawks, is a radically different subject matter, but there is still a sense of foreboding, a feeling that the story will continue outside the frame. Couples and their lack of emotional interaction was a theme in Hopper's work, and this would increase as he got older, and his relationship with Jo more distant. The couple are physically close, yet psychologically miles apart. Are they even a couple? At first we think their hands are touching, but they are not. Her coffee cup is steaming, his is stone cold, perhaps suggesting he has been waiting a while for her. The title of the painting came from Jo, who described this character as having a hawk-beaked nose. He is holding an unlit cigarette, which in Hopper's original sketch was in the woman's hand. The isolation of the solitary man with his back to us is accentuated by the couple. A closer look shows us that he is holding a glass with his right hand, and he has a newspaper folded flat underneath his left. The front page, no doubt, full of news of the war. It is unclear who this random glass is for. Maybe it's for us. Along with everyone else, the waiter is not conversing or even making eye contact with anyone else. He is just staring out of the window. Ever since he painted Nighthawks, people have tried to work out the exact location of the real diner. Following hints the artist gave in various interviews, people spent months trudging around New York without success. That's because the diner never was in New York. It was always in the same place, inside Edward Hopper's head. Hopper was a fan of Ernest Hemingway's short.
So did someone want to say something?
That was a clever touch.
What was that one? Sorry, what did I miss?
Fans and people trying to search for something that doesn't exist in the real world.
Ah, yes.
I just thought that was amusing.
There's more. There's more to come too.
Interesting compulsion of people to try and find the space, right? I think with GTA being such a large series, there's a lot of people who will try and line up the game world to the real world, and plenty of stories of people, playing a game set, or at least heavily influenced by a real world city, and then visiting that city and having those sort of recollections. Happened a couple of weeks ago, right, with Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie was talking about that with your game, Yakuza, yeah. That it really does exist. That's that particular shop, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's interesting that we're drawn to it.
In Hot Fuzz, there's that there's a supermarket that people go to and take photos of.
In the real world?
Yeah.
Goodness me. Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we carry on?
Yep.
Sure.
Story The Killers from 1927, which is considered...
I think this stuff's particularly interesting because it talks about inspiration and kind of cross-inspiration here, which again, for in gaming, we can't help but have inspiration from different sources to see where they've come from.
An inspiration for Nighthawks. It tells the story of two thugs who enter a diner in search of their next victim. The classic 1946 movie version was in turn inspired by Hopper's Nighthawks. The quintessentially American artist loved cinema, and cinema, that quintessentially American art form, loved Hopper.
You guys have seen all of Alfred Hitchcock's classic movies, am I correct in saying that? Assuming that. Fraser.
Listen, I know well enough.
I'm joking. You've got time. You got enough time.
Yeah.
By next week, I expect you to have watched all of Hitchcock's classics, along with all of Kubrick's work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Kubrick did not create it anywhere near as much as Hitchcock. Interestingly enough, Hitchcock did hundreds of. You're familiar with Hitchcock, I'm assuming. You've heard him before. Mm-hmm. So he did, I think, literally hundreds. He made literally hundreds of movies, and out of those hundreds, I mean, you can see one here, Rear Window is a classic. The Birds. There's probably maybe 8, 9 that are considered to be classics. Kubrick, on the other hand, I think maybe made about a dozen movies in his entire lifetime, and also I think he has about 8 or 9 of those are considered to be classics as well, which is quite interesting. The difference in how one got there and how the other got there, very different.
Yeah.
He often went to the cinema alone at night in search of inspiration. Film noir was a primary influence, and we can see this in what many consider to be the first film noir, released 1 year before he completed Nighthawks. It is said that while shooting Force of Evil, the director took the cinematographer to an exhibition of Edward Hopper's works and said that he wanted the picture to look like those paintings. Hopper said that...
I mean, look at that. Like, a director actually, took his cinematographer to an art show and said, "Hey, that's the look that I kind of want." That's the sort of thing we can do in games. Yeah, I mean, if we see a particular style, I have to say, for me personally, are you familiar with Jeffrey Smart by any chance?
Jeffrey Smart,
very famous Australian artist.
Yeah,
who did some paintings in South Australia at some stage.
You showed them to me months and months and months ago.
Yeah.
For some influence for Arvo.
Yes, I think I recall that. Yeah, so definitely having knowledge of art and these sort of things. I mean, I think it's almost a we have to have some knowledge of where we're being influenced. I'd suggest, because then we know more. Sorry, present.
I mean, with games, we working in an art form that leans into several others. We're talking, visual art. We're talking narrative.
We could say in fact, it encompasses all other art forms. What art form can you not have in a 3D first or third person world?
And
you can create a cinema. You can create a cinema, walk into the cinema and have any movie running in that cinema, yeah?
Yeah. It's and even more so, I think a game needs to incorporate most art, at least these days, right? We're kind of beyond text adventures at this point. So yeah, it's good to have that sort of wellspring across the media, so that you aren't having to start from scratch every time.
100%.
You need shortcuts. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, we're nearly finished. We're nearly there. Let's we're a little bit over time, so let's carry on.
Even his early works may have been influenced by German expressionist cinema he saw in Paris. When it comes to the filmmakers themselves, Hopper is arguably the most influential artist of all time. A new generation of filmmakers would pay homage to Hopper's use of high-contrast lighting, his American settings of anonymous apartments, diners and bars, by his extreme cropping and decentralized framing. But in particular, they would be inspired by the characters he painted. Characters waiting for their stories to be told. Nighthawks itself was faithfully recreated for the movies, with the diner becoming a shortcut to emotional dysfunction. Nighthawks, like the best movie, is not just about composition and style. It is a masterwork that in a single frame can suggest to us a narrative that stretches far beyond the picture plane.
It's probably a reflection of my own, if I may say, loneliness. I don't know.
With Nighthawks, Edward Hopper captures a world of loneliness, isolation and quiet anguish. The painting, an immediate success, was bought by the Art Institute of Chicago, where it still is today. Hopper, the quiet man of American painting, projected an everyman image. But he was a complicated and troubled man. He was an intellectual who struggled to find inspiration and grappled with meaning. His works took months of preparation and hard work, and he only produced about 5 paintings a year, sometimes less. He often felt like an outsider himself. At 6'5", he was an exceptionally tall man, and by the age of 12, he was already 6 foot tall. A fact that certainly contributed to his growing sense of isolation and loneliness. Painfully shy, he was a loner from an early age. This continued into adulthood, and he was deeply introverted and uncomfortable in social situations. When he married Jo, it would seem that his years of loneliness were over. But as many people discover, you can be in a relationship and still be utterly alone. Hopper's paintings demonstrate to us that these feelings are normal, that loneliness or feelings of isolation are commonplace. Ironically, his paintings show us that actually we are not alone.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, because when we look at people, we only ever get to see their exterior. We don't see the inner workings of their imagination or mind, or the full picture of who they are.
Well, Sam, before I saw your face, I saw your game. So I kind of get the impression that I maybe got a glimpse of the inner Sam before I saw the outer Sam. The other way around. So, only because we're working online. So yes. But that's pretty unusual. You don't really get to see the inside of someone's, psyche in general, do we?
No.
So there we go.
I mean, art is sort of the only gateway for that, right? That creativity expression is the only time we get to see past it.
One of the things I've noticed over time is that often great creatives look incredibly ordinary, and often incredibly, we often think of, I think in our culture, we look at models and actors and actresses who are obviously, have some sort of striking look to them. But then you look at the people who are the directors, who are the real creatives behind it, who direct these actors and actresses. They're often very pedestrian looking people. They're very ordinary looking people, but they're the ones who have the creative vision. It's not the actors and the actresses who necessarily do that. It's the people who you don't necessarily expect who really have that.
I feel a little pushback on that. I think it's I wonder if maybe it's more expected, or we assume to see somebody who is outwardly, visually sort of creative and expressive, and so maybe it's more striking when we see someone more ordinary who is known for having that very powerfully expressive media. Because I can think of like all sorts of people, like Jacob Collier jumps to mind as a musician who is, as a person outwardly very expressive and sort of extraordinary.
Musicians can be a little bit different, to be honest. I mean, they are performers as well. They're not just like performers. When I mentioned actors and actresses, I mean, they are performers. That's part of what they do. And I think a lot of musicians, they are performers. Whereas if you look more at visual artists or film directors, in particular, people like that, I think you'll find that
writers as well.
Writers as well. I mean, one of the things I'm saying is, when you look in the mirror and you see a very ordinary person, that doesn't mean you're not going to be an exceptionally creative person.
Yeah.
You don't have to look like this, archetypal, like the creative. It's the way the creatives are, I think, often depicted in film and television that perhaps gives us that idea. Oh, they must look this, either the suffering, you talked about the suffering artist, or the flamboyant, creative person. And you look at Edward Hopkins, eccentric is another one, yeah. Whereas quite often, I mean, very creative people tend to look very, but then they create these amazing things. That's what I always say. It's like they create.
I think that
beauty
performer,
and
having I think just like you said, the performative nature of it often encourages, or maybe is supported by those more expressive appearances. And I think
because they are their art form, they are their creation. Yeah. So I mean, which actors and actresses, they are that, but the directors, those people who are behind the scenes. I mean, look at Guillermo del Toro. He's an amazing director, but he has appeared in quite a few things as well. But very ordinary looking guy. If you saw him in the street, you probably wouldn't look at him twice unless you knew who he was.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we might wrap it up there, guys. We've gone over time a little bit, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a good time. Interesting watch.
Yeah, I think there's a lot we can learn from looking at other creative people's lives, and you can always learn something from those who've been before you, even though it's a different medium. Even though it's a different medium, you know, I think there's always more to look into, and I really enjoy looking at the lives of great directors and artists and musicians and composers, and it's like, because so often, I don't know whether we just seem to have preconceived ideas of what their lives are going to be like, and then you learn about them. It's like, oh wow, you know, that's really quite not what I expected.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
having me.
Oh, no worries. It's good to have you back. And we'll be back same time next week, I guess. So what was it? Thursday, 3:30. I look forward to seeing everyone there. Good. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Catch you all next week.